Hi guys, welcome to another episode of The Growth Room. Cue drum roll. Yeah, today's episode is going to be very interesting because for two reasons. First reason is the person I have sitting beside me, one of my closest friends. Actually, I just she's my sister, to be honest. I'm basically her family member. She doesn't like to admit it, but I am. And also just because of the topic we're going to be talking about today. If you've noticed, we've been on this series of, just talking about matters of our hearts, our minds, and, all the nice stuff of our life. And today's episode is going to be about healing from trauma. This episode, well, God help us, because the amount of vulnerability that's required is one that I have never done before, and I'm very sure my dear friend over here has not done it either. So it's going to be very interesting, but I'm going to let her introduce herself. Actually, should I do it? Should you do it?
Please.
I should do it.
Actually, it'll be awkward if you do it. So let me just do it. What do you want me to say?
Okay, say your name, what you do, who you are, your joy, when you became a Christian, things like that. Give us the juicy details.
Okay, my name is Toju. I'm a real estate agent in Ottawa, and I also
selling parliament.
I also serve at my church as a worship leader, and so I'm a worship leader, and I also lead the worship team. So I'm on the leadership team as well at my church, Lighthouse Church Ottawa. What else?
What do you like to do?
What do I like to do? I love singing. I am always singing.
She can sing for days.
Yeah.
She responds to me in songs. Just earlier on, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to buy any set of AirPods. And she said to me, the Lord will provide. I was like, okay. But
yeah, I love singing. Music is life. Music is beautiful. God loves worship. So
okay, I'm not really mad at God loves worship, but I'm really mad at her. But that's fine. Me and Toju have been friends for. When did you become a Christian?
Yeah, I would say, so I grew up in church. I've always loved church, but because of how I love music and how I've always loved music, I loved church because of the worship in the singing aspect. So I used to go to church for that. And then I actively started my relationship with God in 2018. That's when I really would say I started moving with God and a personal relationship, and my life took a turn. Yeah.
Better.
For the better, yeah.
We have so many stories from that era, bro. The amount of things that she went through, I went through. Because I think we kind of gave our lives to Christ around the same time. But officially, I personally, from my own history, we've been friends for 2 years now, in my own personal opinion.
Yeah.
But we've known each other. But we've known each other for, I think, 6 years now? 6, 7?
Yeah, 6 years.
6 years, yeah. 6 years now.
To 6 years, I don't know. I'm going to 6 years.
Yeah, I think it's going to be 6 years this September. Yeah, we've known each other for 6 years now, but we've really been friends for 2 years. A little bit of our history. We didn't like each other before, and now she can't stay away from me. Anyway, yeah. So she's my friend. She's my sister. Yeah, let's get right into the conversation of today. Honestly, this conversation is literally just us gisting about this, because I know that this is such a heavy and a loaded topic, and I didn't want it to be so serious. Not that there's anything wrong with being serious about it, but I do realize just the importance of being able to just talk about it freely without feeling, with no restraints, as though me and her would if we were just gisting about our lives or things that happened in the past. So, first of all, what was your first... Don't worry, both of us are asking these questions. Okay, I can answer first if it's But what was your first, what was the first indication that made you realize that, oh my, I've been traumatized, I need help? Either from God or, seeking outside help, from a therapist or even just a counselor. I can go first if you want.
I think I'm actually okay.
Okay.
I think for the longest time, I didn't think I had anything to heal from, and I didn't think I had been traumatized. But the world is very traumatizing. Like, yeah, for the longest time, and I would say that I realized that I needed complete healing from God when I couldn't recognize myself. So like the littlest things would maybe tick me off, or I'll be saying things that it's like, where is this coming from? Like, who are you? Like, why are you saying this? Or even my thoughts, like, why am I overthinking a situation or thinking about a situation the way I am? So little things like that made me realize, okay, yeah, there's a problem here that you are not addressing, and that can only be addressed through God. So yeah.
I think my first indication, I think I've always known that I've been a little bit delulu. But I think the first time that I kind of acknowledged it for myself, like, was when I was in, I think, my second year of university, and that was around the time that we didn't like each other, so there's that too. But I think for me, it started off with like a huge like mental breakdown. I had like a meltdown in school, and I remember like my friends had to call 911. It was a mess, right? And then it was from that time that I started to be like, okay, there's a problem here that needs to be traced back. And at that time, I wasn't really like in a relationship with God. Like, I started getting to know God a little bit more, was more open to coming to church, and for like the reason, and because prior to that I hated anything about God, but I will share more about that later as we go on in the episode. But I just didn't want anything to do with God. So but then when I had that meltdown, I was like, okay, clearly there's something that I need help with, so why not just give this God guy a try, right? And I think from then on, conversations with like my now pastor was what kind of opened me up to understand that there's a lot that some things I even forgot happened, and like I would only remember, let's say I'm like washing dishes now and I just have this feeling and I'm like, wait, what? That happened, right? So I don't think I necessarily saw it in like I wasn't self-aware basically, but I had a huge meltdown that now made me now retrace my steps and be like, okay, there's something here that needs to be fixed. What was your first response to like your indication? Like when you realized it, like what was your natural like response? Were you angry at yourself? Were you angry if it was something that was caused by someone else? What exactly was your thought process at that time?
I would say I was more sad than anything. I was heartbroken because I could not recognize myself, and I think one of my friends at the time, like most people wouldn't have noticed anything. It was, I think I had just one friend at the time that actually knew, because he was my closest friend. So he's the one that was basically seeing and receiving everything. And then one day he said to me, he said, "This is not you." Like and when he said that, I knew that I had to get, like, there was something wrong. Well, I was heartbroken, and I always felt like I was really sad, honestly, because I was like, when did I become this? Like, when did I start thinking like this? When did I start talking like this? Like, so, and then I was really sad because he also saw that side of me. Yeah. And it felt like I was the toxic friend, basically. So I started looking at myself as like toxic friend, and I think I even used to tell him then, like, you don't have to be friends with me, like, because I felt like he had seen a side of me that nobody in this life is meant to see. And that's meant to be for like me and God. Like, yeah, if it was ever to come out, because so I think more than anything, I was sad. I wasn't angry at myself. I was just really, really sad that I got to that point.
I think for me it was a mix of emotions, to be honest. I think, if I can remember clearly, I had a huge, like, there was this huge amount, I don't want to say guilt, but it was more like condemnation, like this self-hatred, right, that I started to struggle with from then on, kind of feeling like my life was just always a mess. Like, you know, when you just realize that, like, I'm actually a terrible person. Like, I had become the very people that I think that I'm a terrible person. Like, I become the very person that hated, that like I hated, or like the very person that did, or the people that did the things to me that brought me to that point, I had become them unknowingly, because I was so like guarded and trying to like protect myself and, you know, make sure that no one will ever hurt me again. I just kind of went down this spiral, right? So I think that for me there was a lot of self-hate that I had to work through with God, and kind of come to a place where I understood that like everything that happened in my life, some of it was my fault, like I made my own fair share of mistakes, but a lot of it I had no control over, especially those that happened to me when I was a child, right? It's like those are things that I didn't know any better, and like the people who did it should be held accountable, not me, right? But anyway, so I think it was a mix of self-hate and just confusion as to what, like how exactly I got to where I was, but it is what it is, honestly. When you first started working with God, right? Obviously, like one thing about God is that when you start working with Him, there's this season of just revelation of you're actually not okay. Like so how did you handle that with God? Like, was it something that you were very vulnerable with God about, or did you guys have to tussle it out? Like, was there like a lot of tussling of like, okay, God, but like, why am I this way? You know, asking God like big tough questions.
Funny enough, I think I was okay when I came to God. So it was in my relationship with God
that it started.
So that's when, like, I already had the understanding that anyway, I had the understanding that in Jesus' name. I had the understanding that there's more to life than just the physical. And I knew that even though I was experiencing different things, there was this spiritual component. Like I was almost so sure, but I didn't know how to help myself and how to move forward. So I kind of struggled with God because it felt like there was no hope and I couldn't be healed. So in that sense, I struggled with God because God is like, He was trying to tell me like, you can be healed, like that type of thing. But I just kept on, it was almost like I was just saying, oh no, like, you know when it just feels like, because of how your today looks, it feels like there's no
tomorrow, like there's no hope for you, your life.
Yeah, so that's basically what it was for me.
That's interesting. I can relate to that a lot. Wow, crazy. I feel like, so I think for me it was something very similar, like along the lines of that, but I think mine took years to kind of break out of, and it's still something that I still see glimpses of even till today, like kind of like when God is telling you, you know, like, and then you come into this relationship with this perfect father, right, who is kind and good and just and holy and all of these things, and you're experiencing the different facets of who he is. And then a lot of the times we tend to, like, at least for me, I like to self-reflect, and so I'm looking at this God who is loving me and caring for me and promising me all these things about, you know, healing and a future and all these things, and I'm not looking at myself and I'm like, God, the math is not mathing. 1 + 1 = 10, because like I just didn't feel like I deserved to be healed. Number one, I didn't feel like I could, like you said, I could be healed, or there was even healing possible. Like, but I could see how He did it in another person's life, or I could see how He did it in, like, you know, my friends' lives, but I just didn't see how it could possibly apply to me. And also because of my background and like the history that I had of just like feeling like every single thing in my life was just bad and was going to crumble, it just felt like I was almost hanging on to God by thread. Like I was trying to make it. It was almost like the relationship with God was going to crumble at any point. So, you know, stuff like that. So I feel like that was my own disposition to like God. And for me, the reason why I asked is because I know I tussle with God. Like you don't have to. One thing about me, or rather me in the past, is that if I don't understand something and I cannot reason it in my head and it doesn't make sense to my mortal mind, it's hard for me to kind of like like I don't say follow through, but even adapt to it. You get what I mean? Like I feel like I have to see what you are telling me. Like you have to give me evidence of what exactly you are telling me. So if when God was telling me, I'm going to heal you, there's joy. There's joy on the other side of this. You can be a peaceful person. You can have peace. You can experience joy. It just did not mean like. The math in my head was just not calculating, because obviously my surroundings at the time was not necessarily like also helping matters. So it just felt like everything God was saying to me was a lie. And it's only until I came to the realization that what, God is actually good, which is actually like where I'm going to come to, kind of navigating, or rather how to undo those, I don't want to call them toxic, because that's not the right word I'm looking for, but how to undo those negative mindsets in your mind that limit you from actually experiencing the true healing that God has for you. And so for me, like I'll give you an example. Like there will be times where I'm in prayer and God is promising me all these things that look the opposite of what I've experienced in the past in terms of relationships, both romantic and like friendships, or God is promising me something about my family or my future or my career. And it just feels like, okay, God, I'll write down what he's saying, right? And I understand it, but my brain is just like, okay, cool. When you're done telling me this super story, continue to more weightier matters, right? And that's such a bad posture of her, because it's actually a very prideful posture, number one. Number two, it's also very detrimental to your destiny, because if you don't heal from these things that are holding you back, I promise you there's a lot of things that you will not be able to experience. But even if you experience them, even your relationship with God, like there's so much that you will not experience if you don't let him into those intimate parts of you, and also so many things that you will miss out on in your own life, right? Like just going through life that I know the amount of things I missed out on. Like I remember when Pastor Toju was praying that prayer that whatever it is that was supposed to have happened that we have not aligned with God, that let God bring it down like now, because and I felt that prayer very much, because I spent the better part of not the better part, a huge chunk of my relationship with God from 2018 to like about, I think it was only 2021 that I started having conversations. But from 2018 to 2021, I spent the huge part of it just telling God that everything he was telling me was impossible. Like it just did not make sense. And so I tussled a lot with God, and it's still a struggle up until today to kind of lay down what my mind believes and take up the truth of God, if that makes sense. But yeah, you're going to say something.
I was just going to say that when I thought you were about to give me water, because I need anyway. I was just going to say that when walking with God, when you come to God, like your earthly relationships your earthly relationships have a huge role to play in terms of like how you see God. And so it's the reason why when like I grew up, or I think anyway, looking back, I know I had like a good childhood. My parents tried their best and they did amazing. I had a good childhood. It was nice, it was fun. I loved my family and everything. I love my family. So I think it was pretty good for me, and so that's the reason why I never even thought I could have anything to heal from. So there's that, and then there's Miriam on the other hand, which evidently you can now see, okay, she had like the way she grew up, the way you grew up and everything, it's affected the way you even viewed God, healing and God and all that. So it has a huge role. And I was just going to say that we're coming from two different backgrounds, and 100%. Every single person that's going to listen to this is also coming from a different background. And so it's important that as you seek God, you are also aware that he's not trying to cancel out where you're coming from, and he's only trying to take you to where he wants you to be. So he's aware of everything that you've been through, and he's aware of everything in general, honestly, and all he wants is that you just come to him, and from there, like you have seen both of us, we are literally testaments. Like we came to God, and in my case, I didn't know I had anything to heal from. In Miriam's case, she knew. But regardless, we both came and God revealed. And from there, we could then start walking with him till we got to healing. I don't think that I'm completely healed, because I don't think that you can be completely healed. But that's a deeper conversation, and it's very, very but we are now walking with him, and we can now grasp the idea of complete healing through Jesus Christ. Because
can you guys see why she's here? You guys, honestly, out of the two of us, she doesn't like to talk, but whenever she talks, she just I was getting to your point of like how both of us are coming from different perspectives, and I think I understand now why God wanted you to be here, because you like usually I do this on my own, but I think that the contrast of backgrounds helps you understand that healing is not only applicable to people who had like a really traumatic childhood. There's also, like we learned in the past couple of episodes, about actually adult onset like trauma, things that only come about maybe through your relationships in your adult life. So because you come to God, and I think it's necessary that you do the work, or rather you actually sit with God and you ask God, okay, is there anything that is impacting my behavior now, my character now, that is not you? It could be a past relationship, it could be the relationship you had with your parents, it could be the relationship that you had with your primary school friends. There are still things that are lingering from those relationships that are impacting the way that you see life, the way that you see God. One thing I was going to touch on for me was that coming to God, I viewed him from the lens that I viewed my earthly like parents, or even like my earthly friends. I viewed him from the lens of everybody else that was around me, not necessarily for who he was. And it's only more recently, like, and I'm talking as recent as this week, that I'm actually, God is doing the work of on making me unlearn some of those things that I've learned about him, kind of almost juxtaposing my relationship with my earthly people to God. So whatever they did is ultimately what God does. Do you understand? So whatever happened with them, whatever thing occurred between me and them, is what ultimately occurs with me and God. So whenever like there are things that, for example, like whenever God would tell me things about my life or things that was to come, I never took it seriously, because to me it was just all a lie. Like it just felt like everything he said will either not come to pass, or that my relationship with him would just fade away, or he would leave me at some point, right? Just by virtue of the relationship that I had like with other people in my own earthly life. And so I think it pays for you to actually do that work with God and go through that process with God, because if you don't, there's so many things that you won't even realize that you are, what's that word to use, when you're projecting on God, and God is just looking at you, but this is not who I am though. Like I am not this person that you think I am, or I'm not this person that hurt you. I'm not your mom, I'm not your dad, I'm not your distant cousin or your siblings who abandoned you. I'm not the parent that left you at somebody's door at this age. I'm not, like, he's not either one of those people. And we're talking about in the context of relationship with God, because once you start that relationship, this is what starts that journey and process of healing and growth. Everything else flows from that, because if you don't, dare I say, your marriage will be affected, for those of you who want to get married. And for those of you who think that marriage is suffering because of what you've seen, this is also a cue to go back and actually figure that out. I'm talking from experience, because left to me, these are also the things that I also struggled with coming into Christianity, and God is telling me about marriage, and I'm just there like, I'll never submit to a man. Left to me, that's rubbish. I just was not interested, because to me, submission sounded like it was. You say submission, I hear suffering. You say marriage, I hear suffering. Like you say man, I hear suffering. Like I just, that's all I could like configure in my brain. But it's like that Bible verse says that like you have to be transformed daily by the renewing of your mind, because if not, you will carry, what's that word I'm supposed to use? Baggage. Yes, baggage from everybody, and that come on, yeah, be for real. Okay, we're also going to talk about the cross, because this series that we're on at church, go for it, is a lot. So basically, the whole context of the series is that we're talking about the cross and what it means for us as Christians. The all-sufficient cross. I love that term, the all-sufficient nature of the cross of Jesus Christ and what it means for us. And there are a couple of things that God kind of spoke to me about while I was in service, and I actually wanted to share, but we're also going to talk about that. One thing that was highlighted to me, we read through the story of the death of Jesus Christ and, like, you know, how he was crucified, and my pastor really went into a lot of detail on like the crucifixion and what it was actually like, and like how he went into the gory details. It was a bit like, I can't lie, I was in service and I was like, that sounds really, really painful. but like it's important. Like I feel like it was so important for me because it almost like it reprogrammed my brain chemistry, because I finally got to understand certain things about Jesus Christ that I never really did before. And I'll give an example. When he was talking about how they cast lots on his clothing and how they beat him on his back, and all I could just hear was physical abuse, mental abuse, verbal abuse, and betrayal, right? So these are the things that were like, these were the themes that were highlighted in that journey from the Garden of Gethsemane onto Golgotha. The steps were very clear. There was betrayal, i.e. Peter and Judas. There was, loss because he was about to lose his mom and his mom was about to lose him, right? There was there was physical abuse because they literally beat him up. It says that he was beaten up so much that you couldn't recognize him. I don't know if you guys have seen somebody being beat up that much. Like, it's scary. There was obviously verbal abuse. They insulted him. They called him the King of Jews. They put a crown of thorns on his head. They literally mocked God. I think about all of that, and in the grand scheme of things, there was also that feeling of abandonment, because this thing my pastor said about how, when Jesus quoted Isaiah and was like, my God, why have you forsaken me? And obviously he was quoting Isaiah and he was fulfilling prophecy in that moment. But I also dare to believe that there was truth to what he was saying, because God had turned, the full cup of the wrath of God was poured out on Jesus on the cross. Why am I saying all of this? It's to tell you that God can relate. That's literally the only thing. That's the only reason I'm telling you all of this, because a lot of the times you go through life as Christians feeling like this God guy is just this big guy upstairs that just wants us to be perfect without any context. He doesn't understand, he can't relate, I've gone through so much, it's hard for me to do X, Y, and Z. I just can't stop doing these things because I went through so much. Girl, boy, man, woman, whoever you are, he can relate. And I'll let Toju talk on this for this because I feel like she has so much to say. But we'll continue.
Every time I hear the story of Jesus, I don't know, it's just so, it's almost like I want to cry immediately, and it's something that I've been thinking about a lot this year. It's so hard, and the fact that, because a lot of the time we think of Jesus and the stories and everything as just stories, but they actually happened.
That was his real life.
He literally had to go through that. So it's I think about it and it really just breaks me most of the time. But just in addition to what you said about how Jesus, God feels everything. He has felt it. He knows. I remember when I personally had gotten to my lowest of lows, and I was crying seriously this day, and God said to me, he was just I feel it too. He said to me, I feel it too, and that really that made me cry even more. But more than anything, it made me feel like someone could feel, I don't even know how to explain it, because I'm not one person to speak a lot. I'm not the type of person to just go around and say really nice. I'll be saying oh, this is what's wrong with me. I think that has a huge there's a lot of that side too, and it's mainly because number one, I'm a firstborn. I'm meant to be, or I've grown up with the idea that I'm to be good, to be perfect, to look like everything is good. And I have 3 younger siblings. I have cousins
all together
that look up to me. I'm a leader at church. There's just so many things, and it just feels like you're meant to have it together. You're meant to be good. Even Rebecca was telling me this one time, because I messaged her and I was like, okay, Rebecca, this is something that I really need your help with and everything. And she said to me, she was like, you're really good at looking like you have everything together, right? And I was like, it's a bad thing, but yeah.
Thank God, yo. I feel like that is just free some of you.
Yeah, sometimes, and even till now, because sometimes I don't have, it's almost like there's no time to really, because I do a lot. I'm literally always on the go. So sometimes it's almost like there's no time to feel something or to even speak to someone about it. So just hearing, I feel it too. It changed a lot for me. And in that same conversation with God, he said to me that he wants to change how I see myself. And he was like, oh no, he showed me. It was almost like I saw myself on my bed crying, and I was standing there, not as myself, but feeling what I was crying. So it was almost like I was looking at myself from God's perspective.
From God's perspective,
and he said to me, like, I'm feeling everything too, and I want you to shift your perspective and see yourself the way I see you. So that's the reason why I always tell you to pray that prayer, that God will help you see yourself the way He sees you, because that thing, it literally freed me.
It changes the game.
I'm not joking. Like, that statement, it was probably the beginning of my healing process, to be very, very honest. So yeah, that's
so amazing. That's actually so amazing, because the thing about it is I had a similar experience with God, but this was more, we have this event at church called Winds of Change, and I was praying. I was doing Winds of Change, or he was doing a service, or regular study service, and I was praying, and I had this vision of myself, and in the vision I was wearing like these like rags, like these raggedy clothes, and I was in the mud, I was in the dirt, like it looked like I was going through life. And there was this guy, or this man, like very prestigious looking man, and I couldn't see his face, but like his clothes literally looked like royalty. He looked like a warrior on a horse. The horses were white, and there were these guys behind him that were all dressed in white as well, and they all had white horses. And he came and he put his hand out like to me, like to lift me onto his horse, and I kind of was looking at him like, okay, you see your horse? Your horse is white. Look how I'm wearing. Like, I was just like, okay. And he pulled me up onto his horse, and when I sat down, I put my arms like around his like waist, his waist, or I don't know, I think it's called torso. And as he was riding along, all the dirt and like mud it was almost like, how like almost something fades away like in the cartoon animation form, and I just had changed into like a white outfit, and like I was now wearing white. I looked just like everybody else on the horse. Like, you couldn't differentiate me from everybody else on the horse, right? Like on like the horses. And I feel like for me that always serves as a reminder that this is what God is doing in my life. It might not always feel that way, but I can see it in my life. And even that prayer that she asked me to pray, I think that I even kind of extended that, and I started to ask God to show me who He is, because I really want to know who He is. Because once you understand who He is, understanding who you are becomes easy, because then you are beholding His glory, and you're able to see yourself as just as precious as He sees you. And so when it comes to healing from trauma, I think that a lot of us are so focused on what we've done, or what we didn't do, or what they did, or what they didn't do. But God is like, there's a place I want to take you to, and all I need is your yes. I don't need you to have everything figured out. Like, I don't need you to know the 5 steps of anger or going through pain. No, all He needs is your yes, and that process will start. And the process is not always easy. You have to face some very you have to face some very not nice emotions. You probably have to remember a lot of the things that your subconscious has forgotten in a bid to protect itself, because a lot of us go through this selective amnesia where you've gone through trauma, but if I ask you what the trauma is, you can't remember what it is. Not because you didn't go through it, but because you have buried it so deep in your mind, and then one day it resurfaces and you don't know how to deal with it. You need to take it to God, because only He can deal with it. And when He starts that journey, He will start to bring things up to the surface. But it's almost like it's almost like a purging, like as though you are pouring everything that was once in a muddy bottle and pouring water in it and shaking it and then pouring it out to make the bottle clean. That's literally how I see it. So you were doing,
Oh no, me, I was singing, sorry.
Can you guys see my issue?
Oh my goodness.
Can you guys actually see my issue? But yes, there's a huge journey ahead of all of us, to be honest. And like Toju said, we're not all there. There are things that I'm still kind of like just with God, like I don't want to talk about it. Like I really don't want to talk about it. But at the end of the day, I know that journey that He's trying to take me on is one that's like 100% worth it. And I remember a friend of mine had a dream. I was going to share this. A friend of mine had a dream about me one time, and she saw me in a house, and it was almost like the whole house was like torn down to pieces. You could see like the bricks that were used to actually build the house. You could see all the rods, the foundation of the house, everything was bare. And I was standing in the house, and it was like somebody came in and started like putting in new, like basically rebuilding it again and painting walls. And that dream has kept me together, because what happened in 2021 that literally broke my life apart, there's been a rebuilding since then, and I'm still in that phase and journey of rebuilding. I don't think I'm going to leave that phase for a long time. I don't think honestly we ever will, because there's so much that we've gone through, and there's so much that we will now still even further go through that God needs to heal us from. So honestly, I think that like that has kept me. So if you need God to give you a promise or something you can hold on to, He's more than capable of doing that. You need to, like Toju said, ask God to actually help you see yourself the way that He sees you. Because take it from, I used to be a believer, which is because sometimes when she's talking, I just be like, okay, thank you. But I started actually praying it seriously, and it has literally changed a lot of things for me, right? I don't pray it as often as I should, I will be honest, but there are times that I've actually prayed it and I have seen things that God is like actually showing me. And it's not to puff myself or to make myself feel like, oh, everything is about me, but it is to kind of encourage me and to teach me that God, the way that I think God sees me is really not the way that He sees me. It's so much more better, it's so much more glorious. Like, He sees you the way He would see Jesus Christ, because Jesus took your place on the cross. Like, I keep coming back to this cross thing because I really implore you to actually do a study on the death of Jesus Christ and actually ask God to show you what that actually means for you, because I promise you it will change the game. And if you can tune in into, like I said, we're doing it for the whole month of May. I 100% encourage you to actually watch those sermons, because I think that every Christian needs to know exactly what the cross means for them, because it will literally change your entire life. It will make you see healing a little bit more different. And also to the point of, I'm talking a lot, but also to the point of where we're talking about how God can relate. He really can. So it doesn't matter what it is that has happened to you. Physical abuse, sexual abuse, verbal abuse, domestic, or rather you even watch someone be domestically abused. Whatever it might be, whatever trauma, whatever baggage your own comes in, whatever color your baggage comes in, God is more than capable of handling it. Not because of anything. First of all, because He's God and He's all-knowing, all-seeing, He's omnipotent, omniscient. He knows everything. But more than anything, because He has felt it, like He has experienced it, and whatever you feel, He feels 10 times, even not even 10 times, a million times. I can't even quantify it. He feels it infinitely more than you can ever feel it, right? So
it breaks Him more because He already went to the cross for you to overcome that. So He feels it, and then He's also then heartbroken because you're not yet walking in who you're meant to be. Yeah.
Well, I think you should start seeing Michelle walking in who you're meant to be. Because this girl, this is the only time I get her to talk. If you want you to talk, just talk about how you're not seeing yourself the way God wants you to. Tutu have your time. Tutu have your time. But yeah, I feel like it's such a necessary thing, and I feel like a lot of Christians come into God and rather into their work with God, and no one really bothers to teach them this. We're all about how to find a job, how to find how to become a high value man, to find a purposeful partner. See, all your issues will be solved if you know what the cross did for you. Literally, that wife you're looking to be, you can find this in the cross. The healing you're looking for is in the cross. The fulfillment and validation you're looking for in the cross. There's nothing more validating than knowing that as per somebody died for you. I'm sorry, if that doesn't make you feel like the main character, I don't know what else. I really don't know what else will, to be honest. Like, that has to make you feel like the main character in this entire situation. So I would say, apart from some of the things we mentioned already, what are some things that people can do practically to help them heal trauma? Because a lot of the time we talk about these things. Obviously, we've talked about prayer, so I don't know if you haven't noticed, but two things we talked about a lot: prayer and reading the word. And in my humble opinion, that's all you need. But there are some of you that want steps. So what are some things that you feel like?
Okay. Actually, I have something to say before I will say. Let
the apostle speak. Glory God.
I was going to say that God is He's very, very orderly and very intentional, and there's a reason why when you come to God, one of the first things that He starts dealing with are mindsets and how you see yourself and trying to heal you. It's very, very important, because it would transfer, and you cannot experience God to the fullest until you start letting go of things, or at least have the idea that He is able to help you let go. So that's what I was just going to say.
It's giving run the race, like the Bible verse that says like lay off every weight and run this race.
Every weight
And the sin that ensnares you. So run. Shout out to Dana Obadu! If you're watching this.
Daniel,
We're sorry because but it's fine. But let's continue.
Yeah, practically things, me personally, outside of prayer, I started picking what's the word? I would catch myself when I know I'm about to go down a
slippery
slope, whatever. Yeah, so let's say I am in my room and I'm just watching TV, and before you know it, it's like someone texts me or something, or I see something and I start overthinking, or something is happening. I will stand up and maybe walk around, or even if not walk around because I can't be lazy.
You can be lazy.
Honestly, sometimes it's just standing up and going to the washroom that will do a lot. Like that's something that really, really helped me, and that's one of the reasons why I don't want to stay in an apartment. And like I personally,
every day she gives me 5 reasons why she needs to buy a house. That's just the whole point of this conversation. She wants to buy a house. Maybe she supports our ministry to buy a house.
I prefer to live in somewhere very big because it makes me feel like there's space mentally, and even outside of that, it makes me know that if there's something wrong, I can stand up and walk a little and go back to my room and I'll be fine. Or just change where I am. So sometimes going downstairs does a lot instead of going to an apartment, your living room, your 1-floor apartment. Not to say that she's
just insulting my apartment, you guys. She's just insulting my apartment. That's the issue.
No.
That's fine.
And if you're in a small space, because some people live in studio this thing, it's okay to take a walk. I personally don't take walks because I'm lazy, or I can be lazy. But find something, call someone that, even if you don't tell the person anything, just call them and be like, oh, how are you? Because sometimes hearing someone speak or hearing someone's good day will help you. And we're called to live. We are not made to be alone. And even in that, sometimes someone's story will liberate you, or take you out of where you are, basically, or even help you in that particular moment. So you don't have to tell the person everything, because I know not everyone is comfortable sharing.
Yeah, 100%.
But like speaking to someone, moving around, those are 2 things that
really help with triggers. Okay, I think for me, my own thing would be, I always say this, journaling. I think every single person on this planet Earth should own a journal, but that's just my opinion.
Oh yeah, there's that.
Journaling, because a lot of the times, this devil guy, this very stupid person called the devil that we are up against, I didn't even go against him. He's just, those people that just can't take the hints that they're not with it. That's what the devil is. But that's besides the point. He's very crafty, number one. This is not to glorify him or to glorify his power, because God is not equal with the devil. The opposite of God is not devil. It can never be. It's just not possible, because he can't be the opposite of who created him. Doesn't make sense, but that's fine. I'm saying that he's very crafty and he knows exactly where it hurts. So there are things that may happen, people who will message you, things from your past that will want to pop up. Sometimes even thoughts, feelings, emotions. Even, I don't know about me, but my senses are very in tune. Sometimes even smells and tastes will just bring me back to a moment. I'm like, God, please, like, I've left this area of my life. But I find that even if I'm not home and I have my journal with me, or I have like notes on my phone, I'm able to just type down, because sometimes I don't know, like I don't know how to say it to someone, and maybe people around me don't even know the history of what I've gone through, and I just don't want to talk to them about it. I'm able to just, it's really because, and this is for me because I find it hard sometimes to speak like verbally about what's going on, but I can write it down. I write it down, like, okay, God, this is what I'm feeling right now, like I feel like this is that, and by the time you write like 5 pages, you've poured, first of all, you poured this, and you've probably even left what originally started. You finally started asking God for that one phone that you want. Also, like your brain has already left that area of your life, like that moment in time, until you're able to just kind of think clearly. That's number one. Number two is always having like therapy. I would say for me, therapy has really helped me, because you're able to talk to someone who's experienced in that area, and I'm talking for like especially people who have gone through like really, really deep trauma, so from sexual abuse to physical abuse, whatever it might be, because these you might even suffer from PTSD and you don't know, right? So those are things I feel like talking to a therapist 100%. I'm also going to do this thing very soon by the grace of God. Actually going to be sponsoring somebody's therapy session, but just pray to God, pray. But yeah, because I feel like we need to actually be able to, I can't just talk about mental health and not be able to assist someone, because I know how difficult it was for me starting off and actually being able to afford one. So by the special grace of God, we will be sponsoring them at least for 5 sessions. I think 5 sessions should be okay enough to do, right? But sidetrack, honestly, I feel like therapy is something that I really think everybody should go to. Even if you don't feel like you have any trauma, I still think you should go to that. Another thing is also having a community of believers around you. Like Toju said, calling somebody up. But I found that because of the kind of friends that I have, the devil cannot linger too long. I don't know how to explain it to you guys. Like I can be in a rut. Somebody will call me. And there are people who have coconuted in my life that if they call me and I don't answer them more than 3 times, they are going to show up at my door. And they will knock on the door. And if I don't answer, they will call me, they will text me. I can show you video, I can list their names and they know themselves. One of them is sitting right here. There are lots of them, but because of how, what do you say? I was really laughing like, oh, no, it's call me out. Yes, you get, like, these are people who are like, and it might seem maybe extreme, like, okay, why are they blowing up your phone? But because they know me and they know how sometimes I can go from 0 to 100 real quick. And so sometimes you need to have that community of people who are able to pull you back and be like, girl, you're not doing that. The plans of the enemy, they don't linger too long in my life, because even if I don't answer, there's somebody that is kabashing and calling out to my spirit in the middle of the night, and I'll just wake up and I'm like, okay, I need to talk to somebody, I don't know how. And this has happened to me times with that number. So having a community of believers who actually care about you will really help you, because also when you call them with these triggers, or you've seen something, or you've heard something, someone called you, or you had a conversation that just is making you spiral, they're able to speak the truth of God's word into your mind. Even if you can't even pray, they will pray over you, because it's needed sometimes. Do you get it? So I feel like those are the things that have practically helped me, and I really hope that, you know, what we've said has helped you in some way or form. I think there's one thing that God wanted me to share, and this one is a bit tough because I don't think I've ever actually shared this outside of my really, really close friends, but I'm going to share it because I know that someone is going to need it. So I talked about earlier on how I did not want to have anything to do with God before I gave my life to Christ, and I'll explain why. Because when I was, how old was I? Okay. When I was, I think I was 9, I think, around that age, I lost my sister, my older sister, and me and her were like this. You guys kind of look alike, but I've told her that's fine. Anyway.
That's scary. Like,
that's not scary. Why is it scary? Why are you afraid?
It's actually very strange, because you know what? Share what God told you to share.
Okay, so basically, I think after her death, I had a lot of questions for God. There were so many things that I didn't understand. And this girl was, so it wasn't like, she wasn't, I used to tell people that if it was me, I would have been like, okay, I'm a sinner, right? You know, I used to do rubbish like that, GS. But like, my sister was very much devoted to God. Like at the age of 10, she used to pray for hours. She used to read her Bible. So things are just, I just don't understand it. And I had so many questions. And I would ask pastors, and pastors would tell me, don't question God. And I was like, be for real, like, okay. So I just kind of grew up with this resentment in my heart towards God, because I just felt like when I needed him the most, he wasn't there for me. Because I prayed, we did everything that we could do, right? And I remember just feeling always like, people would talk about God. I remember my friends would tell me to come to church. And in my head, I'm just like, if you don't move from my sides. But a friend of mine I think it was you and No, it wasn't you. I think it was my friend Kumi. I think it was Kumi. Somebody invited me to my current church, and they were like, you know, the pastor is really cool. He's a cool pastor.
Oh God.
If only I
Imagine pastor listening to that and be like, oh God.
know. Oh God. But yeah, he's a cool pastor. He doesn't scream when he's preaching, and and I came and I listened. I was like, okay, the guy is a chill guy. He was wearing Converses, like you know, cool dude, you know. So anyway, fast forward, I had the mental breakdown that I had, and my pastor actually came to see me in school at the time. I remember we went to Tim Hortons. He bought me, I think it was the donuts or something, because I didn't even want to eat. He just bought it for me. And we talked, and I told him everything that I felt, everything, how much I resented God, how much I just felt like he just did not keep to his word, and how like it felt like the one time that I actually decided to actually apply this word that everybody's always talking about. Because I was raised in church, I went to Bible school, Sunday school. There's no Bible verse. I'm very good at Bible school. Like there's no Bible verse you mentioned. I even if I can't tell you the Bible, I can complete it for you. So that's how deep, as far as my extracurriculars used to be Sunday school. That's how deep my mom was, right? So I wasn't foreign to God, but I just felt like all the Bible verses I read were wrong, and he just did not keep his promises. I remember for the first time in my life, a pastor did not try to tell me, oh, don't question God. He just told me, you're very valid for the questions you're asking, and unfortunately I cannot answer that question. The only person that can answer it is God. And I think I just wanted honesty. I just wanted somebody to actually tell me that. They also did not understand. Like they also could not answer it, because it just it really made me understand that, okay, maybe there's more that I can actually go searching for. And that's how I actually started working with God. I remember the first time I gave my life to Christ, the day I gave it my life to my room in Nigeria. I had this note, my high school graduation notebook that they gave us for school. I filled almost half of it with just everything I had in my head. Every question, every as deep as it went, as bad as it went, everything. I just said everything that was on my chest, and I was like, God, I don't understand it. Why did you do this? 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 And that was the first time I ever heard from God. And since then, that has been my primary way of hearing from God. And I think that in that moment, it was like the only thing he literally told me was that I see you. Like, you're not, like, everything that you felt, everything that you've gone through, I've seen it. I have not been away from you. And I was like, in my head I was like, how? Like, you weren't there when all of these things happened. And I started to have recollection of things that happened, people that spoke to me, statements that were made in that season of my life that stuck with me for some reason. I didn't understand why they stuck with me, but they just did. And I realized that each and every one of those people was God telling me, I'm here. Like, you're not too far away from me. I'm not distant. I'm here. And honestly, I'm saying that in hopes that the Holy Spirit will actually speak to some of you, because I know that some of you have lost people that you have prayed and fasted for. You prayed. You did everything you need to do. You fasted. You believed. You had faith. And don't let anybody ever tell you that you did not have faith. You had faith. There's such things as faith accidents. You did what you could, but it just ended up in the opposite of what you wanted. I'm really here to tell you that God sees you. I don't have the answer to your question yet, because each person's situation is very individual and you have to go on that journey with God. But I'm here to tell you that it's worth it to actually go on that journey. It's worth it to actually go on that journey of finding out why God let it happen. He might not give you an answer. He might not tell you exactly why. But what he will do in that process is that, first of all, he will heal you. Second of all, he will show you just how intentional he is about you, and how at every single step of the way he was there for you. So I really pray that this helps you. I don't know why he wanted me to share it, but I've shared it well, so it is what it is. And I really pray that God really, really helps you. Do you have any final words to say?
I think the only thing that I would say is, if there's one thing that has stuck out throughout this entire conversation, it's just relationship with God. And it's very important that we seek God, and that you seek God no matter what has happened, because I don't want to say he's God in terms of like you must serve him because he's God, but he's good. And if there's a verse that God always tells me at every single point in my life when I'm trying to maybe look
Elsewhere.
seek something or find answers. It's just seek first
The kingdom of God.
and everything else will follow.
Bruh.
Not seek church.
Not seek your favorite pastor.
Not seek your pastor. Not seek the worship music that is on earth.
Not seek the fine boy in church. Some of you.
All of that, but actually seek God, and everything else will follow. And that honestly has been my own life story. Like I literally just move with God at every single point. I know. No matter what, because like Miriam said, there are things that will still traumatize you in this life. You will go through things. I read a lot of like traumatic stories, like whether it's other people's stories or something, and they are a lot. Like people go through things. You've gone through your own things, and your thing sometimes, no matter what anyone might try and tell you, it was big. It was because deep. Sometimes people try and make it seem like, oh, you know, I had it worse than you. Someone out there.
They will not be doing competition for trauma.
But all I'm trying to say is that God is here and God is with you, and He's just saying, seek me and it will be fine. Like just come to Him, be vulnerable with Him. He understands. He is there for you. So
come all you who are heavy laden and burdened and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. The rest of the Holy Ghost is real. The rest of God is real, and it's very evident. I wish we could just sit in a room for hours and talk about this, because I have stories for days. Like she knows this more than anyone. Like my life has, this entire video is exactly what I've had to experience for the past couple of years. Like, and there's still things I still don't even understand, still things I'm still trying to figure out. So that's to tell you that it's not we're not there yet, we've not arrived anyway, but we are attempting, doing the very best that we can to lay aside every weight, every sin that easily ensnares, to run this race with God freely and do it well. Because when you start your work with God, man, your life changes for the better. I really can't, because who I was then, she knew me then. She was unfortunately a victim of who I was back then, you get? And she's seen me now, so she can definitely testify of the goodness of God in my life, even no one else can. I know she can, right? So honestly, I really pray more than anything that for everybody on this call, for everybody on this video who's listening to the podcast, audio, video, whatever way you choose to listen, I pray that the rest of the Holy Ghost really rest on you. I pray that His peace that surpasses all understanding fills your heart. I pray that in this moment He will make you aware of not only His presence but His love for you. I pray that the eyes of your understanding will be open, that you will truly, fully understand just how high and how deep and how wide and how big God's love is for you. I really, really pray that God really shows you that He's there for you, not because He ever left or because you haven't seen it yet. And I pray that, I know that you will come back and you will testify of the goodness of God in your life. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this. I really hope that God met with you and spoke with you. I hope that your journal is full of things to talk to God about. And as always, I will see you in the next episode. Thank you to Toju so much for coming here. Thank you for taking time out of your very busy schedule. Although I have to grab a bit right sharp, but you know, it is what it is. We gotta do what we gotta do. Yes. But yes, thank you guys so much for coming and watching, and we'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye. Bye.